Okay, so have you ever really stopped to think about one of the most basic, everyday things our bodies do? Yeah, I'm talking about peeing. It seems so simple, right? Just go. But behind that incredibly simple act is this, well, it's a masterpiece of biological engineering, a super complex system of signals and controls that somehow we all learn to master. So let's dive into this hidden world and figure out how it all works.
I mean, just think about it for a second. When we're babies, this whole process is completely automatic. It's just a pure reflex. But then as adults, we have this incredible, fine-tuned, voluntary control over it. So how in the world do we make that leap? How does our body manage this super intricate plumbing system? Deciding exactly when to store and when to release? That's really the core mystery we're going to unpack.
Well, it turns out it's not the work of just one muscle or some simple on-off switch. Nope. It's actually managed by this highly coordinated, let's call it a control team. It's made up of three totally distinct sets of nerves, and they are constantly talking to each other to get the job done.
Okay, so here are our three key players. Now, fair warning, they have some pretty technical sounding names. We've got the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and the somatic nerves. But hey, don't worry about memorizing those just yet, because each one has a very, very specific job. And it's actually pretty easy to remember once we break it down. So let's meet the team.
All right, this is where it gets a whole lot simpler. We can give each of these nerve teams a nickname to make sense of it all. So, first up, think of the parasympathetic nerves as the go team. Their whole mission in life? Empty the bladder. Simple. Then you have the sympathetic nerves, which are the exact opposite. They're the store team, and they're all about holding on to urine. And finally, you've got the somatic nerves. They're like the guard at the gate, the one we have direct, conscious control over.
So, for most of the day, our body's default setting is storage mode. So let's take a look at how this incredible team masterfully handles the filling process. And trust me, it's a pretty remarkable feat of engineering all by itself.
Okay, so the bladder has this amazing superpower. It's incredibly elastic. The technical term is compliance or plasticity. See, it's not like a regular balloon where the more you fill it, the more pressure builds up right away. Nope, the bladder wall is specifically designed to stretch and expand, taking on more and more fluid without really making a big fuss about it.
And get this, to put that into perspective, just to show you how effective that elasticity is, the bladder can comfortably hold around 400 milliliters. That's actually more than a standard can of soda. And the amazing part is, it does this with only a tiny, tiny rise in pressure inside. And that's exactly why we don't feel this constant, nagging, growing urge to go all day long. So, how exactly do the nerves pull this off? Well, during the storage phase, the store team, that's our sympathetic nerves, is totally in charge. It's sending two signals at once, one to relax the main bladder muscle so it can keep expanding, and another to tighten up the internal gate, that first sphincter, to keep it sealed. And at the exact same time, our guard, the somatic nerve, is making sure the external, voluntary gate is clamped firmly shut. It's literally a double lock system, super secure.
But of course, that can't last forever, right? Eventually, something's gotta give. So what happens when the bladder finally reaches its limit? Well, that's when a really fundamental automatic program kicks in. It's the body's default go signal. Let's take a look at how that gets triggered.
And this is such a cool way to see it. You have these two main teams in perfect opposition to each other. You've got the storage team, the sympathetic system, whose job is to relax the bladder muscle and tighten the gate. Then you have the voiding team, our go team, the parasympathetic system, and it does the exact opposite. It contracts the bladder muscle to squeeze, and it relaxes that internal gate to open things up. They're a perfect push and pull system.
So this whole automatic process is managed by what's called a spinal reflex arc. It's pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, little stretch receptors in the bladder wall sense that it's full, and they send out an urgent signal. Step 2, that signal zips up to the spinal cord. And step 3, the spinal cord immediately issues the go command, which activates our parasympathetic go team. And the result? The bladder squeezes, the gates open, and the emptying process starts. This is basically the body's autopilot program.
But wait a minute, we're obviously not on autopilot all the time, right? There's a higher level of authority. There's a mission control that can step in and completely override that spinal reflex. And yeah, you guessed it, that mission control is the brain.
Now, this is a really crucial point. The brain isn't trying to start this whole process from scratch. Its main job is to act like a powerful override switch for that automatic reflex we just talked about. It's not the one hitting the gas, it's the one deciding whether to hit the brakes or let it roll.
It simply asks, is it a good time to go, and then permits or inhibits the reflex.
So when you finally decide, okay, now's a good time and place, your brain's cortex basically just takes its foot off the brake. It removes that stop signal it was sending. This gives the parasympathetic go team the green light it was waiting for. At the same time, the brain tells our guard, the pudendal nerve, hey, stand down, and that final voluntary gait relaxes.
And what if it's a terrible time, like you're in the middle of a meeting? Well, the brain does the exact opposite. The cortex doesn't just tap the brakes, it slams on them. It doubles down, cranking up that stop signal to suppress the go team. And most importantly, it sends a strong, direct command to the guard, telling that pudendal nerve to squeeze that external gate shut even tighter, forcefully overriding the automatic reflex. You know, the true brilliance of this whole integrated system, with the spinal reflex as the base and the brain's oversight on top, it becomes crystal clear when you look at what happens if that connection gets broken.
So yeah, let's just think about that for a second. What happens if mission control, the brain, is disconnected? What happens to that automatic program that's still running down in the spinal cord?
Well, the result is a condition called an automatic bladder. And what happens is, after an initial period of what's called spinal shock, that underlying spinal reflex we talked about, it comes back. The bladder will fill up and it will empty, all on its own, but the person has no feeling that it's full and absolutely zero voluntary control from the brain. Yeah, in essence, the whole system just reverts back to its factory settings. All of that sophisticated voluntary control that we learn as toddlers, it's really just like a software update. And if you cut the connection to the brain that's running that software, the body just falls back on its original hardware, a pure, uncontrolled reflex, exactly like in a newborn baby.
And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? That simple idea perfectly sums up this incredible journey our bodies go on, from a totally unconscious process to a skill we consciously master. It's all orchestrated by this amazing team of nerves, with the brain as the expert conductor.
It really makes you wonder, though, doesn't it? I mean, we think of things like breathing or our heart rate as being totally automatic. But what we've just seen shows how this powerful layer of conscious control can be built right on top of a primal reflex. So what other hidden connections between our minds and our bodies are out there, just waiting for us to understand them?